verse 16. For it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy. That's a quote. When it says it is written, it's referring to Leviticus 20, verse 26, where God instructed his people to be a holy people, which means holy individual people making up a group that's a holy group of people. For it is written, be holy, for I am holy. So, whatever it means to be holy is something, number one, that we're actually instructed to be. And number two, it's something that God says applies to God as a characteristic. So God is holy. We're not told to work on becoming holy. That's a different form of the verb. We're not told to work on it and to plan someday to turn into something holy eventually in the sweet by and by. We're told to be holy. Yes?
What verse in Leviticus?
Leviticus 20, verse 26. You are to be holy to me because I, the Lord, am holy. Let's put a semicolon there, and I want to move right to, just for a moment, speaking of the paper, so that we don't forget it in case you have worries. Is this so we don't lose a moment?
Yeah, it's probably them.
Oh, you're right. What's the matter with you there?
Gotta make sure.
Thank you. You too. Thank you. Wonderful. Man. Okay, the paper. First, I've had more people from this class than I think there is the number on the roster who have asked me. I'm not sure that's possible, but you know, spirituality involves some things that defy math. How long does it have to be? I know what you're really asking is because you're afraid you're going to make it too long, and I'm going to be offended that you made me take too long to read your 40-page paper. I would say that I have a very difficult time remembering what it's like to be a student and to be going, what am I supposed to do with this paper? And it's only one of 73 things I have to do by yesterday night. Because it's dead week, it's finals week, yada yada. Well, here's a little disclosure, appropriate or otherwise. PUC's term ends in a week and a half, right? Less than 2 weeks. However, when this next weekend comes, the term in the university where I'm enrolled full time, it ends this week. This is it for me, and I still have 1, 2, 3, 4. I still have 5 papers and about 6 assignments that have to be done this week. And trust me, I'm trying for each one of them to psych out the professor and see how much can I get away with. And it actually works on both ends in my programming. When they say between this and this, when you go over that, they send it back in some cases. But not every professor, so you have to know. And there's some professors that if they say that they want the thing to be between 20 and 35 pages, then if you turn it in and it's 18 or 19, they say, oh good, we were concise. And if it's 36, then they kick it back. If they don't kick it back like the minute you turn it in, they might kick it back like the last thing before the deadline. And then you either are there to catch that email where they say you better go redo it, or... So I know right where you're coming from. I have not told you how many pages in length. That's on purpose. I want you to figure out how many pages it takes to do what the description in the syllabus asks you to do. If you were going to write a book, how many pages does it need to be? Who knows? We don't know what it's about. I don't know what your paper is going to be about. I don't know the nature of your spirituality. I don't know if you're going to say, basically, I was born Adventist. My parents brought me at the same time every morning to the living room. We read a devotional book. At night, I went over my Sabbath school lesson, and they read me from the Bible stories, whatever. And that has developed into now I've adapted that. So instead of having to read this in the morning and that at night, and I got a couple ideas from this class, this, and that. I'll probably experiment with those. Not sure how that's going to go. And here's some things I might try. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be something like that, or if it's going to be something that's going to be earth-shaking to you, where you say, wow, I've recently thought about some things that turn my spirituality upside down. I found out some things that make what I've been doing seem trite, or I'm reinvigorated for things that I left off, that I was given as a child, and I recognize now that they're really powerful. I should go back to those. Or, hey, I don't have any particular religious or spiritual practice. It's all foreign to me, and so I'm not sure. Maybe I'll try this. Maybe I'll say, feels kind of blank, like I don't even have that aspect. I don't know what I'll say. But those different things I'm kind of hinting at are not to curtail you to pick one of the above by any means. Within the description of the assignment, as the assignment is written in the syllabus, element on element, within that description, I can't predict what that's going to mean for you. You'll also notice that there's no rubric. Okay? There's no rubric. That's absolutely by design. It's more convenient for me to just give you the rubric. It's more defensible when I grade it and I have less irate people that say, what's the basis of saying that my 2 pages of crap aren't 100%? I don't have any way with a outer rubric to defend what I ultimately do. If I give you under than 100%, you don't care if you get 100%. You don't care, right? When it's over, I got the grade, and he said this is great. It's not like, oh, I got to look up that rubric and I can test that. I'm going to sue him. You can't say my paper's perfect. I mean, I know it's not. So then there would be no issue. So know this. It's far more convenient. And I don't even need to take the time to make a rubric up. I can cut and paste it like a lot of people's papers come from Wikipedia. You have any idea how easy it is to cut and paste some have a mindless rubric? It's so easy. But I would rather take the risk of having exposure for each of us to something far more like life. I want to suggest that for one dimension of spirituality, in its essence, it is walking away on purpose from some of life's rubrics and having an aspect that isn't prescribed. You start getting into areas of spirituality. In fact, when you say, put that rubric aside for a second that my culture tells me, and I'm going to walk a path that's not defined, that's not empirical, that's not verifiable, that's not already articulated with somebody. I'm going to take a risk to go someplace there's no map for. That's an aspect of holiness. Because it's asking you to step outside of normal humanness to a place where we can't become mechanized. Treating human beings mechanistically, finifying the human being, making the human being a programmable instead of self-creating entity is antithetical to spirituality in its essence. Religiosity is not equal to spirituality. Liturgy is not equal to spirituality. Can spirituality have aspects of religiosity and liturgy? Of course. Solid, best practice spirituality should have those things in most people's cases. It should. I think that an aspect of the healthiest, most beneficial spirituality for nearly everybody would really involve following their church or their religious entities' practices for worship and lifestyle, and even for modeling religious reality, to actually be the best of what it is you are. If you're an Adventist, to be a model Adventist. If you're a Catholic, to do the thing. Stop doing birth control. Stop saying, I follow the Pope except for yada yada. Stop that. Because your religion, if you're a Catholic, says you're not allowed to do that. If you're a Baptist, then be a Baptist. Full on. Do it or don't. And in the Adventist case, it is my assertion, not just out of loyalty, but out of honest assessment, that when I look at all the vast choices for religious systems and everything, I still pick this one on its merits. I don't come from an Adventist family. I wasn't raised Adventist. And I picked it after what I mean, as extensively as 9-year-olds can shop. But I was fortunate, I believe, to find something that, at least from my perspective, is among the finest groups of people with one of the most honest attempts to live the religion of Jesus that I've ever experienced. So, if you have any question about that, be very certain that I'm not somebody who would like to see our fellowship as Adventists compromised or redefined. If you live or think or worship, though, exclusively by rubric, you are that much further from being an actual living human being. There's an aspect of life, there's an aspect of biology, there's an aspect of the psychology of consciousness that right now the modern Western intellectual agenda is insisting must be exclusively mechanical and physicalist. And all those attempts if honestly pushed to the edge of their capacity, will be shown to break down. Not just, in some of their implications, but the other direction, in their fundamentals. They will be shown to break down. I will accept that life is entirely mechanical when I see somebody able to make a living machine. In fact, I would even settle. I would say I could probably even accept that life is simply mechanical and physical if somebody could even give a successful definition of life. But they can't. You name a definition of life that's ever been articulated, and I guarantee you we can say, okay, well, what about this instance? Oh, well, that's not a life. Really? Well, it does those things. And so you say, okay, well, but it has to do this too. Okay, well, what about this one? That means this one's not alive. Oh, yes, it is. Well, I thought you said it will always break down like that. You can't even actually define it. Not successfully. And consciousness, what is it that's looking at itself, looking out from my eyes, my mind's eye? What is it that is the thing experiencing what the mind presents to me or you? The first person observer, even of that says, why did I do that? Who's saying it? Why am I doing this? How is it that I'm me? Who's asking that? No, not the global workspace model, not a vastly networked emergent property. None of those things answers that problem. And people today simply say, because it's not a real problem. That's an illusion. It's not really, there isn't really a you doing that. That's just a figment of your imagination. Here's the problem with that. Whose imagination? You can't say it, that it's a figment of my imagination, that it's just, I'm deluded into thinking that without saying that there's a me to do it. So you're left with the problem again. I'm not wanting to grade your paper to reduce your grade. It's not my goal to see if I can be a tricky dude that can harm your GPA. You're not here for that, and I'm surely not here for that. I could do that other ways. I wouldn't even need to be up here. I could just inconvenience you externally without breaking the law enough ways that you fail your classes. I mean, it's doable. I could just upset you without breaking the law randomly as a matter of social vandalism, but that's insane, and it's not my agenda here either. So write the thing in confidence and safety, but don't just blow it off like it's not important because it's not a STEM class. When you're done with all your STEM classes, when you have your MD, PhD, and you have your lab coat and your lab and your minions, and it's all very successful, and the hospital you work at and DuPont, who gives you the grants, thinks that you're a superstar. When you go to bed at night and close your eyes, the same you will be there going, yes, but. And all of that stuff, once you get your hands on it, once you step into all of those roles with all of those achievements that seem so wonderful, once you get the carrot, and you realize that it's just a carrot, you will be left with the same questions.
When will the Dropbox be opened?
Do you know how to do that?
I can go with that.
Let's open the Dropbox for the papers. It's fine to turn them in any time between now and the time class meets on Friday. That's the deadline. Can the box close when the class starts?
I forgot. You wanted a hard copy, right?
No.
No, just one.
Save a tree. Save a tree. Just upload it into that thing It'll just say papers or whatever. You tell everybody, once you create it, tell them what it's called, okay? What's it going to be called?
Spirituality paper.
Spirituality paper, that's what it's going to be called, okay? You have the syllabus, you have the description, answer the description in your paper, and then write it with safety. If it's not a snow job, I'm not here to hurt you. Okay, fair? So the last thing I want to do is associate for you some sort of misery with your conceptualizations and experiences of spirituality that we're trying to build. Okay? Aside from, I hope the worst experience you have in this class is boredom. If anything, I hope that's the most traumatic that it becomes, is boredom when it's tired and I can just keep going on and on. I hope that's the worst it gets for you in here. Okay. I want to talk. Is there anything else? Do you want to hear more about? I made sure that the box is open for submitting final questions. Okay. Yes?
You said you wanted an APA format, right?
Yeah, who here has never written a paper in APA format? What did you write in your paper in labs? What did you write in MLF? What did you write it in? Anyone write it in any other format? Turabian, Chicago, nothing else? Okay, here's the thing. Who here has written a paper in APA format? Okay. Here's the deal. If you do not write it in APA format, then in the comments in the submission, tell me what format you used. I'll assume that does anyone even know any systems besides NLA and APA? Does anyone even know how to write a paper in any other style? No. Somebody knows how to write it in Chicago. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. If you're going to use Chicago or MLA instead of APA, and from what I gather, there's no reason to write it in any other, is there? I'm sorry? You need sources? You may use sources. If you do not use sources, then you would have to prove that you are a substantial source. It would have to become apparent that you did some serious investigating of yourself in order for you to be a source. In other words, you would need to not just be sort of stream of consciousness in the moment. You would need to be consulting yourself almost like a third person.
You always do that every day, like when you, like the conscience,
Yes, you do. And that's why I say that. Because if you write it like, say, a third grader would write an essay, there'd be no sense of that dichotomy. It would just be, sure is hot today. It wouldn't be very reflective. It wouldn't be, there'd be no observer of the observed.
Do we cite ourselves at the end?
You don't have to cite like that, it would just become apparent.
Okay.
So for some of the sources, can we use the super dot and such?
I'm sorry?
For some of the sources, can we use the super dot?
Yes, you can use the textbooks in the course, and you can use the Bible, you can use the Talmud, whatever.
Can you use your lectures as a source?
Yes, of course. If you do, just say that it came from class lecture, you don't have to dig around and try to find the date, unless you're quoting. If you use an exact quote, then you need to have the date of the thing. And you can get it off the recordings or out of your notes if you have them, or ask someone else in here. Now, I have one regrettable item of business and an apology that I need to make. On Friday at precisely 9:50, you asked me a question. And I said, no, I'm not going to give you any curse dollars. I am going to give you curse dollars. And furthermore, I think it was you who said you didn't give her any curse dollars. Right? I'm going to give you interest for it, and I'm going to extend a sincere personal apology for accidentally, definitely not as some sort of teaching device, for accidentally demonstrating the kind of thingification of another person that's anti-spiritual. My project was presenting something in a linear format, and so linear that I failed to respect even the time. It was precisely 10 minutes before 10 o'clock. Class was already actually over, and by my reflection, she was attempting to, at the most appropriate time, ask an important question. My goal is to model being more in the moment than to allow my immediate concern for my projects to eclipse somebody else's immediate concern. So that if I'm talking about something and you want to raise a completely different issue, to just let the topic go that, or the activity go that direction and trust you enough to do that, rather than thinking that I'm the only one who can set an agenda. So I sincerely apologize. Had I been in your shoes, I'd have felt bad, and so I felt bad on reflection. Although my mind was obviously capable of being non-mindful in the moment, the way my memory works, it replays the tapes afterwards, kind of word for word, and I could, in my mind, look at the clock and replay it that afternoon. And so it didn't even occur to me until that afternoon that I was abusive, so I apologize. I like to be a person who creates a safer space than that. In terms of being holy, there's multiple models of what it means to be holy or sacred, as opposed to being unholy or not sacred. For some people, it's viewed like you've got all the categories in life, and then you've got the sacred and the holy isolated from that. So when you say to somebody, you ought to be holy, you be a holy man, you be a holy woman, somebody says, well, that's not me because I do these regular things. There's nothing real holy about me, and I poop. I have thoughts when I look at other people that are obscene. And obviously, I wouldn't have those kind of thoughts. If I was actually a holy person, I wouldn't act like that. I have to do my laundry, and when I do my laundry, there's aspects of it that are obviously unholy. And I have to floss, and there's that stuff that comes out from between my teeth and goes on the mirror. That doesn't seem very sacred. It seems very I seem very worldly and very common because of those things. How could I think of myself as being somehow sacred? How could I bring, like, my dirty underwear with me into the kingdom of God? I obviously need something to happen for purification because I seem to be an unholy and defiled thing that spontaneously and reliably has nasty agendas that even pile on top of my best religious attempts. Now, I'm probably the only one that you could describe this way, and I'll let you see yourself as lacking any of those elements. I say with a smile. This model, I don't want to invalidate it, I don't want to disrespect this model, but it has some downsides that some disadvantages that I want to point out. To have it like everything else is here, it allows you to say things like, okay, now as an Adventist, I could use Saturday. As a Catholic, I would say Sunday or whatever. Let's go and do the following things. And you say, oh yeah, that's naughty. and then I can say another time, let's not go do those things, it's Sabbath. That's not a way to behave on Sabbath. Okay, or we go into church, sit down, open our laptop, and look at things on the laptop that somebody comes up behind us and looks at it and says, you're looking at that in here. You're looking at that in here. Right in the church, you're looking at that. I mean, won't you go do that somewhere else? So this model would say, if I just go somewhere else, I might even box out stuff that's not even just generic, it's decidedly unholy. It might even be anti-holy. It is profane. One of the other downsides of this is that I can put in this box, I can put my business, my career, what I do to get my money. I can put my entertainment. And a lot of times people who are upset that they think church is becoming too entertainment-like have the notion that they can have forms of entertainment that are decidedly unholy as long as they maintain a space where they act differently than that. So it's like, well, I can at least obviously demonstrate that I can curtail it to this. Now, some people would take the borders off of this box and let everything that's not inside the holy be unholy, be vulgar and profane and all of that. In fact, do you know that the very notion that something that is vulgar is bad? Do you think of the term vulgar as meaning bad? When I say something, oh, that's vulgar, that's vulgar language, that's vulgar behavior, doesn't that sound like I'm saying it's bad and sinful? Doesn't it? That's a tragedy of the Christian enterprise. The fact that you and I automatically think something is bad when it's vulgar is misrepresenting Jesus Christ's agenda. Do you know that when the Bible was translated into language that common people, non-clergy, non-priests, could understand, it was called the Vulgate. That version of Scripture was called the Vulgate because it was written in vulgarity. Do you know what else is written in vulgarity? The New Testament. The New Testament is written in vulgarity. Because the vulgar simply means the common. Especially the things associated with the lower socioeconomic class, the lowest caste people. The notion that Christianity has accepted that things that are vulgar are nasty and that they're unholy is that there's been a social agenda to cause people that are poor and common, not royal, not uber educated in culture, to be equated to valueless filth. If you even consider the enterprise of cussing, of using taboo words, those words are only taboo by virtue of the fact that it's how the low-class people speak and their vocabulary. It only stems from people that we look down on using those words to mean certain things. At some point, think of the absurdity of declaring certain sounds off limits. And actually research where that idea comes from. You will find it comes from a caste system. Here's a scandal. Here's a scandal. Jesus proposed offensively. Jesus offensively proposed that wrestle with that. Now, what's the point? To try to teach you to use a lot of vulgarity? To try to make it so you offend people in your speech as a religious practice? No. To make the point that it's a dangerous deception that by virtue of being regular and being an animal, being a real messy human being, with all your biology and your crazy conflicting agendas, even your biological agendas, to think for one moment that reduces your eligibility to be a living holy person is a dangerous and horrible deception. In fact, Jesus' scandalous agenda was, in his context, that all of those parts of you, all of those real, live, messy, human things are holy and sacred. And that as the apple of his eye, you do not stink. You are not nasty when you are simply who you are. He redefines what is nasty and horrible and that actually stinks. But it isn't the same things that the culture says are nasty and stink. It isn't your humanness. It's all of our attempts to dehumanize others and ourselves. To thingify, to use other people to get ahead. To use them as a factor in your own success equation is filthy to Jesus. But your biology and your overwhelming adolescent breeding urges and the fact that you want to do things that you don't even understand why you want to do them, whether it's to use dope, to go experience some sort of thrill with some extreme activities that would make your mom very uncomfortable. To want to be loud and fast and to be able to laugh at things, even the things that are quiet and macabre. That Jesus is fond of your actual person, not just your potential. Your unlikely to be realized religious potential. Fond of the messiest parts of you, of the humblest, most vulgar parts of you. Jesus loves all of you and says, all of you as you really are. Be holy. Don't plan to become holy. Don't wish that you were holy. Don't say, okay, the potential is there because some people have, but it's unlikely because, in my case, yada yada. Be holy. So that when you do your common tasks, even the tasks that aren't polite to share with other people and they don't want to know about them, everything, approach it 1 second at a time, because it's what you're doing this second. It's where you actually live and have your being. Whatever activity you're involved in right now is a sacrament. If you are in conversation with God while you do it, without ever stopping, you can have an unbroken say the blessing as I do this, say the blessing before I do that, say the blessing when I'm done with this. So that your consciousness, as we discussed, being an unbroken prayer, is a matter, like, you know how we isolate a few activities when we get religious. So, okay, we're going to eat now. Don't anybody put food in your mouth. Let's hold hands. Lord, we thank you for this food that we're about to consume. Please bless it to our good and us to thy service. In Jesus' name, amen. What I'm suggesting is that not just eating, but absolutely every other activity that makes up your life be treated like that. Before church starts and the Bible gets opened and sacred music gets enjoyed and participated in, of course, you would think it's strange if we were leaving church, we're heading out on the way to the car, we've already been shaking hands, we've already emptied our wallets, we've already sung, commented on the pastor's hairstyle, whatever. And then we say, do you know what? Nobody prayed. There was no opening prayer. There was no pastoral prayer. They lifted the offering without a prayer. And then we left without a benedictory prayer. We had no prayer. You would think, okay, well, that was unusual. You noticed that. I'm suggesting that you conduct each moment as a full-fledged worship service. Because you're holy. Because you're a holy person. Will that be transformative? I suggest that it will. Will it be immediate, that you just make that decision and then you are always mindful of that from this point forward without practicing and reminding yourself and forgetting for 3 days at a time, or saying, today I'm doing that, and then at night you say, I didn't do that. No, I'm not suggesting it won't actually go like that. I'm suggesting it as a lifelong spiritual practice, a project. And good luck with it. It's really tough to stay on it when things impose, when our other agendas hijack it. I'm hijacking your agenda at this point. I apologize for that. And I wish you every blessing as you work on your paper, as you prepare for all of your projects and tests the next 2 weeks. Bless you each one.